You're at dinner with friends, the check comes, everyone's looking around, someone suggests splitting it evenly. You had the cheapest thing on the menu because honestly you're trying to save money this month, but now you're about to pay $47 for a meal that cost you $22. And here's the worst part, you say nothing. You just smile and hand over your card. Or maybe you're on the other side, you just got a raise, a significant one. Your friends want to go out like usual, but now you're sitting there doing mental math, thinking, I could actually afford the nice place, but if I suggest it, am I being pretentious? Am I showing off? Look, if either of these scenarios has ever happened to you, you already know what we're talking about today. Money doesn't just change your bank account. It changes your friendships, your family dynamics, your romantic relationships, everything. My name is Elon Musk, and I spend way too much time thinking about how money rewires human relationships. If you're someone who's ever felt weird about a financial conversation with people you care about, or you've noticed your relationships changing as your income has changed, or you're just confused about why money makes everything so awkward, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Here's the thing most people don't realize. Money doesn't gradually change social dynamics. It creates an immediate, almost instantaneous shift that most of us are completely unprepared for. There's this fascinating study from university that found when there's even a 20% income disparity between friends, the frequency of their interactions drops by an average of 28%. 20%, that's the difference between making $50,000 and $60,000 a year. That's one decent raise. And suddenly, without anyone saying anything directly, the friendship changes. But here's what's really interesting, and this is where it gets psychologically complex. It's not actually about the money itself. It's about what the money represents and the assumptions both people start making. Let me break down what's actually happening in your brain when money enters a relationship. There's a concept in behavioral economics called reference point theory. Basically, we don't evaluate experiences in absolute terms. We evaluate them relative to what we expect, what we're used to, and what the people around us are doing. So when you and your friend used to both make $45,000, going to a $30 brunch felt the same to both of you. You were both making a similar sacrifice. You were both experiencing a similar level of treat-yourself indulgence. But now one of you makes $90,000. Here's the math that your friendship probably won't survive if you don't address it. That $30 brunch represents 0.033% of the lower earner's annual income. For the higher earner, it's 0.016%. Now you might be thinking, that's such a small difference, why would it matter? Because it's not about the absolute numbers, it's about the psychological experience. For one person, that brunch still requires consideration and budgeting. For the other person, it's completely thoughtless spending. And when you can spend thoughtlessly, you stop thinking about whether other people can't. Let me walk you through the 4 primary mechanisms. And I'm going to be really specific here, because understanding these will help you navigate your own relationships. Mechanism 1, the expectation gap. This is the most common one. When income disparity exists, people start having different default assumptions about what's normal spending. I have a friend, let's call him Mike, who started making around $200,000 a year in his early 30s. His college friends were mostly making $55,000 to $75,000. Mike would suggest meeting up at restaurants where were $45 to $60. To him, this was just a nice dinner. To his friends, this was a special occasion restaurant. Here's what most people don't realize. Mike wasn't trying to show off. He genuinely recalibrated what he considered normal. This is called lifestyle creep in personal finance, but it's really perception creep. His reference point shifted, and he stopped being able to accurately gauge what felt expensive to others. The friendships didn't end dramatically, they just faded. Invitations got declined more often. People stopped suggesting get-togethers because they didn't want to either suggest something Mike would find cheap or go somewhere they couldn't afford. Mechanism 2, the obligation dynamic. This one's subtle but incredibly powerful. When there's a significant wealth disparity, both parties start feeling weird obligations that poison the relationship. The person with more money feels obligated to pay more often, or they feel guilty when they don't. The person with less money feels obligated to decline invitations, or they feel guilty when they accept help. Look, there's actual neuroscience behind this. A study from university found that when people receive financial help from someone they consider an equal, it activates the same brain regions associated with social pain and embarrassment. We're literally wired to feel bad about being less than in our peer group. And here's the really frustrating part. The person with more money often doesn't understand this. They're thinking, I'm happy to pay, we're friends, what's the big deal? But they're not accounting for the fact that constantly being on the receiving end of generosity fundamentally changes how you feel about yourself in that relationship. Mechanism 3, the identity disruption. This is where it gets really interesting. Your friendships, especially your close ones, are built partly on shared identity. You bond over similar struggles, similar goals, similar constraints. Money disrupts that shared reality. There's this concept in sociology called relative deprivation, the idea that people feel deprived not based on absolute conditions, but relative to some comparison group. Your closest friends are your primary comparison group. So when your friend buys a house while you're struggling to pay rent, it's not just that they have something you don't. It's that they've exited a shared struggle that was part of your bond. The late-night conversations about when we finally make it suddenly ring hollow because one of you made it and the other didn't. I've seen this destroy relationships. Two friends who dreamed about success together. One achieves it, and suddenly the one who hasn't feels like a failure every time they talk to their successful friend, not because the successful friend is doing anything wrong, but because the comparison is unavoidable and painful. Mechanism 4, the communication breakdown. Here's the big one, nobody talks about any of this. According to a survey by Ally Bank, 70% of Americans say money is the most difficult topic to discuss with family and friends. More difficult than politics, religion, or even sex. We've created this bizarre social norm where we'll tell our friends intimate details about our romantic lives, but we won't tell them we can't afford dinner. This silence creates assumptions. The person with less money assumes the person with more money doesn't get it anymore. The person with more money assumes everything is fine because nobody's saying otherwise, and both people are walking on eggshells, trying not to make the other feel bad, which just makes everything more awkward. Let me give you some numbers that should shock you. The average American will earn approximately $1.7 million over their working lifetime. Seems like a lot, right? But here's what nobody tells you. Research from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that strong social connections are associated with a 50% increased likelihood of longevity. That's comparable to quitting smoking. Your relationships literally affect how long you live. Now, I'm not saying you should bankrupt yourself to maintain friendships, but I am saying that when we let money silently erode our relationships, we're not just losing friends. We're losing years of our lives, we're losing our support systems, we're losing the people who make life worth living. And here's the math that should really concern you. The average person will have 3-5 truly close friendships in their adult life. If income disparity destroys even one or two of those because nobody knew how to navigate it, you've lost 20-40% of your intimate social support. That's enormous. Okay, so what do you actually do about this? Because I'm not just here to depress you. Let me give you some actionable steps. Step 1, have the awkward conversation. Look, I know this sounds simple, but it's not. You need to explicitly discuss money with the people you care about. Not your exact salary necessarily, but your financial reality. Here's a script. Hey, I want to be honest with you. I'm trying to stick to a budget right now, and that $40 brunch spot is outside what I'm comfortable spending. Can we do something less expensive, or maybe cook at home together? Or from the other side, I know I've been suggesting pricier places lately. I'm not trying to change our dynamic. I genuinely want to spend time with you. If cost is ever an issue, please just tell me. I'd rather know than have you declining invitations. The exact words matter less than the directness. Just rip the Band-Aid off. Step 2, establish explicit norms. Some of my friends have a rule. When we go out, we each pay for exactly what we ordered. No splitting evenly. This removes the guessing game. Other groups rotate who pays for group activities, but they set a budget cap. Whoever's turn it is can choose, but we keep it under X per person. The specific system doesn't matter. What matters is that everyone agrees on it explicitly, so nobody's making assumptions or feeling resentful. Step 3, create cost-neutral activities. This is huge. If your primary way of hanging out costs money, then money will always be a barrier. Some of the best times I've had with friends cost absolutely nothing. Hiking, game nights at someone's house, cooking dinner together where everyone brings one ingredient, long walks, home movie marathons. And here's what's interesting. Research from the Journal of Consumer Psychology found that shared experiences create stronger bonds than shared consumption. You bond more from doing something together than from eating expensive food together. So if you're the higher earner in the friendship, suggest free activities. It removes the financial pressure and often creates better memories anyway. Step 4, understand time versus money trade-offs. Here's something that changes as your income changes. Your time becomes more valuable relative to your money. When you're making $30,000 a year, spending 3 hours to save $50 makes total sense. When you're making $150,000, that same calculation might not work. But relationships require time, not money. So if you're the higher earner, you might need to consciously choose to waste time on inefficient activities because that's what your friends can do, and the point is being together. If you're the lower earner, understand that your friend's time really has become more constrained. They're not being flaky, they're managing different pressures. Now we need to talk about family, because this is where it gets even more complicated. Unlike friendships, you don't choose your family, and family often comes with built-in expectations about financial help that friendships don't have. There's this expectation, spoken or unspoken, that if you do well, you help family members who are struggling. And look, I'm not going to tell you whether you should or shouldn't, that's personal. But I will tell you this, if you don't set boundaries, this expectation will destroy your relationship and your finances. I know someone, let's call her Sarah, who makes about $180,000. Her sister makes $35,000. Over 5 years, Sarah gave her sister approximately $60,000 in loans that were never repaid. Sarah eventually felt resentful and used. Her sister felt entitled and also somehow still inferior. The relationship is basically gone now, and here's the kicker. If Sarah had just said no from the beginning, the relationship might have survived, but by saying yes while feeling resentful, she poisoned it. The boundary framework. Here's what I recommend. Decide in advance what you're willing to do financially for family, and then communicate it clearly. I'm happy to help with emergency expenses up to X per year. Beyond that, I can't without impacting my own financial security. Or I'm not comfortable giving money, but I'm happy to pay for specific services like helping with a career coach or covering a professional certification. The specifics matter less than the clarity. Vague promises create vague resentments. We also need to address romantic relationships because money is one of the top 3 causes of divorce. In dating, income disparity creates this weird power dynamic. Research from the National Bureau of Economic Research found that in relationships where one partner earns significantly more, the lower earner often experiences decreased relationship satisfaction, not because of the money itself, but because of the perceived power imbalance. And here's what's really interesting. It doesn't matter who earns more. When the man earns significantly more, traditional gender dynamics can make the woman feel dependent. When the woman earns significantly more, it can threaten traditional masculine identity, causing relationship strain. The solution, same as with friends, explicit communication about expectations, boundaries, and how you'll handle financial decisions as a couple. Before you move in together, before you combine finances, before you make any major financial commitment, have the full conversation. How will bills be split? Will it be 50-50 or proportional to income? Who pays for what? What are each person's financial goals? These conversations feel unromantic. They are unromantic. They're also essential. Here's the thing I need you to understand. Money will change your social dynamics whether you acknowledge it or not. The only question is whether it changes them consciously and constructively or unconsciously and destructively. Every time you avoid the conversation, you're allowing assumptions to fill the gap, and assumptions are relationship killers. Every time you pretend the income disparity doesn't matter, you're creating an environment where both people feel weird, but neither person knows how to fix it. Every time you let money silently determine who you spend time with and how, you're letting your financial circumstances choose your friends for you. Look, I want to end with this because I think it's important. We've been taught that talking about money is impolite, that discussing finances is gauche, that if we're really good friends, money shouldn't matter. But that's backwards. If we're really good friends, we should be able to talk about anything, including money. If we're really good friends, we should want to remove the awkwardness, not preserve it. The most authentic relationships I have are the ones where we can talk about money openly, where we can say, I can't afford that without shame, where we can say, let me get this, without it creating a weird debt obligation, where we can acknowledge that we're in different financial situations without it threatening the friendship. That level of honesty, that's what real friendship looks like. So here's what I want you to do today, this week at the latest. Identify one relationship where money has created awkwardness or distance. Just one. Reach out to that person and have the direct conversation. Use the scripts I gave you, acknowledge the discomfort, suggest a specific solution. Most people won't do this. Most people will nod along to this video, agree with everything I've said, and then continue avoiding the conversation. And their relationships will continue to deteriorate. Don't be most people. Your relationships are worth more than your comfort with awkward conversations. Your friendships are worth more than your fear of vulnerability. Money is going to change your social dynamics. The question is, are you going to let it happen to you, or are you going to shape how it happens? If this helped you, hit that subscribe button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and leave a comment telling me about a time money changed one of your relationships. I read every single one. Now go have that conversation.